The pack hall of Blackthorn Castle had never been so quiet. Torches flickered along the stone walls, and hundreds of wolves stood shoulder to shoulder, waiting for their king to speak. At the center of the hall stood Ronan Blackthorn, Alpha King of the Northern Territories, tall and broad, with golden eyes that had commanded armies and silenced rebellions with a single look. Beside him stood a young woman no one recognized. Her name was Elira Vane, a healer's apprentice sent from the border villages to help treat wounded warriors after a long season of fighting. She had walked into the hall with simple clothes and calloused hands, expecting nothing more than to deliver medicine and leave quietly. But the moment Ronan's eyes met hers, something changed in the air. His whole body went still. His wolf stirred beneath his skin, restless and alert, the way it had never stirred before. A low murmur spread through the crowd. The elders exchanged glances, and one of them whispered a single word that seemed to shake the entire room. Mate. Elira felt it too, though she did not understand what it meant. A warmth spread through her chest, gentle at first, then powerful, like a rope pulling her heart toward the king's. She had no family, no title, and no idea that such a bond even existed. All she knew was that when she looked at Ronan, something inside her whispered that she belonged there, in that hall, beside him. But King Ronan did not smile. He did not step toward her. Instead, his jaw tightened and his eyes turned cold. He was only days away from a political marriage to Princess Sable of the Western Pact, a marriage meant to end 3 generations of war between their territories. Peace depended on that union. Alliances depended on it. Thousands of lives depended on it. A stranger from the border villages, a girl with no name and no army behind her, could not be allowed to threaten everything he had worked to build. So King Ronan did something no one expected. He turned to face the entire hall, his voice loud and firm. "I reject you," he said. "You are nothing to me." The words struck Elira like a blow to the chest. She felt something twist and tear inside her, sharp and burning, though she did not fully understand it. The bond between mates was not something that could simply disappear, but it could be wounded, and Ronan's rejection cut deep. Still, Elira did not cry. She did not beg him to take his words back. She straightened her spine, lifted her chin, and looked him directly in the eyes. "Then you have made the worst mistake of your life, Alpha King," she said, her voice steady despite the pain. "Not because you rejected me, but because you rejected me before you ever knew who I truly was." With that, she turned and walked out of the hall, leaving behind a silence so heavy it seemed to press against the walls. No one understood what her words meant. Not even Ronan, who stood frozen long after she disappeared through the doors. 3 days passed. Elira prepared to leave Blackthorn territory for good, packing the few belongings she had brought with her. She told herself it was for the best. She told herself she would forget the pull she still felt in her chest, the ache that reminded her of a bond she never asked for. But on the 3rd night, as she folded the last of her clothes into a worn bag, someone knocked softly on her door. When she opened it, she found a woman she had never seen before, wrapped in a dark cloak, her eyes a striking shade of silver. "You have your mother's chin," the woman said, studying Elira closely. "And her stubbornness too, it seems." Elira stepped back, confused. "My mother died when I was a baby," she said. "I never knew her." The woman introduced herself as Commander Yusolt, a leader from a hidden stronghold known as the Ember Court, a place Elira had never heard of. According to Yusolt, Elira's mother had not been an ordinary woman. She had been the heir to an ancient throne, one that existed long before the Alpha Kings divided the land into separate territories. When rivals threatened to destroy the Ember bloodline, Elira's mother fled into hiding with her infant daughter, only to be killed while protecting her. Elira sat down slowly, her mind spinning. She was not simply a healer's apprentice with no family and no history. She was the last living heir of a royal bloodline, older than the Blackthorn crown itself. A bloodline that every Alpha King's family had once sworn loyalty to, generations ago, through an ancient pact sealed in blood and moonlight. The old laws were never erased, Yusolt explained. They were only forgotten, buried beneath centuries of new kingdoms and new kings. But forgotten does not mean gone. She reached into her cloak and pulled out a ring, old and finely made, engraved with the image of a howling wolf beneath a crown of stars. She placed it gently into Illyra's palm. "This ring belonged to your mother, and to her mother before her," Iseult said. "It carries the mark of the Ember Throne. Every wolf born under the old pact is bound to kneel before it, whether they remember why or not. If you return to that hall wearing this ring, Illyra, King Ronan Blackthorn will have no choice but to bow before you." Illyra stared at the ring, feeling its weight settle in her palm like something ancient and alive. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she closed her fingers around it and looked up at Iseult with new determination in her eyes. "Good," she said quietly. "Let him learn exactly what he threw away." Meanwhile, inside the walls of Blackthorn Castle, King Ronan had not slept properly since the night of the rejection. The mate bond, though wounded, refused to fade completely. It pulsed inside him like an open wound that never fully closed. His wolf paced restlessly through his mind every night, snarling the same word over and over. Mistake, mistake, mistake. He told himself he had done the right thing. A king could not choose personal desire over the safety of his people. He told himself that peace with the Western Pact mattered more than a bond he barely understood. He repeated these reasons to himself again and again, but none of them eased the ache in his chest. Then, on the 7th day, a messenger burst into the throne room with urgent news. An army was approaching from the southern hills, one that flew a banner no living wolf had seen in generations, a silver wolf howling beneath a crown of stars. Ronan rode out to meet them, his warriors close behind him, unsure of what threat they were about to face. But when the army came into view, his breath caught in his throat. At the front of the procession, dressed in armor the color of ember and silver, rode Illyra Vane, sitting tall on a black horse, her chin lifted with quiet authority. Commander Iseult rode beside her, and it was Iseult who spoke first, her voice carrying easily across the open field. "Queen Illyra of the Ember Court," she announced, "last heir of the bloodline that every wolf kingdom was built upon. She has come to collect what is owed to her." Ronan felt something shift deep inside his body, an ancient pull he did not understand, something buried far beneath pride or reason. One by one, the wolves standing near him began to kneel. First the elders, their heads bowing low. Then the warriors, dropping to one knee despite their confusion. Even Princess Sable, who had arrived early for the wedding preparations, understood immediately what this meant for the future of her own kingdom, and she knelt without hesitation. Ronan remained standing for as long as his body would allow him. He was a king after all, and kings did not kneel easily, but the pull grew stronger, ancient instinct overpowering stubborn pride, until finally, his knee hit the ground, and the man who had once called Illyra nothing, now knelt before her in front of his entire pack. "Illyra," he said quietly, his voice rough. She looked down at him, her expression calm but firm. "Your Majesty," she corrected gently, and the entire field fell into a heavier silence. Illyra did not come to destroy him. She did not need to. Watching him kneel was enough to settle something in her chest that his rejection had broken. The Ember Throne did not demand revenge. It demanded respect, acknowledgement, and the restoration of an order that had been forgotten for far too long. In the following days, Illyra made important decisions as Queen of the Ember Court. She dissolved the arranged marriage between Ronan and Princess Sable, freeing both of them from a union built purely on political necessity rather than genuine choice. Sable, relieved and grateful, returned to her own territory to rebuild peace on her own terms, without being forced into a marriage she never wanted. Illyra also restored old traditions that had been lost for generations, ensuring that no Alpha King could ever again treat a mate bond, or any person, as something disposable. She worked with the pack elders to create new laws that protected the rights of every wolf, regardless of status or bloodline, and slowly, the northern territories began to change for the better under her quiet but firm guidance. One evening, weeks later, Ronan asked to speak with her privately. He came without his crown, without guards, and without the proud posture he usually carried. He looked, for the first time since she had met him, like an ordinary man rather than a king. "Is there any way back," he asked quietly, "to what the bond once promised us?" Illyra considered his question for a long moment. watching the moonlight fall across his tired face. The pull between them had not disappeared completely. Some bonds, it seemed, could not be erased, no matter how deep the wound. But rejection leaves scars that even strong bonds cannot fully heal. "You did not reject a healer's apprentice, Ronan," she finally said. "You rejected me, believing I had nothing valuable to offer you. That is the part I cannot forget. Not the throne, not my bloodline. That choice you made in front of everyone." She left him with that truth instead of empty promises, understanding that real trust could not be rebuilt overnight, no matter how strong the ancient bond between them remained. She continued her work as queen, earning the respect of every territory she visited, not because of the power she held, but because of the fairness and wisdom she brought to every decision. As for Ronan, he spent the following months trying to become a better leader and a better man, learning what it truly meant to value someone beyond their usefulness to him. He did not know if Elira would ever choose to stand beside him again, not as a queen offering fealty, but as a partner offering her heart. But he understood, finally and completely, why every wolf in the Northern Territories now looked at her with such deep respect. The woman he had once called nothing had turned out to be the very reason his crown remained upon his head at all. And though their story was far from finished, one truth had become clear to everyone who witnessed those events. Real strength was never about titles or crowns. It was about knowing your own worth, even when someone else failed to see it, and having the courage to stand tall until the whole world was finally forced to kneel.